Beloved brothers and sisters, there comes a season in every believer's life when God begins to separate you. Not because He is angry with you, not because you are rejected, but because you are chosen. Separation is never comfortable. It often feels like loneliness. It feels like misunderstanding. It feels like doors closing and familiar voices growing silent. But I want you to understand this spiritual truth today. God never separates a person without a purpose. When God separates you, He's not pushing you backward. He is positioning you for greatness. Look throughout Scripture. Before God used Abraham to bless nations, He told him, leave your country, your people, and your father's household. Before Joseph ruled Egypt, he was separated from his family and thrown into a pit. Before Moses led Israel, he was separated into the wilderness. Before Jesus began His ministry, He was led into the wilderness alone. Many people misunderstand separation and immediately assume something has gone wrong. When relationships fade, doors close, or familiar environments change, the human heart often interprets it as rejection or failure. But in the spiritual realm, separation is very often a sign that God has placed His hand upon your life. It is not abandonment, it is divine selection. God separates not to diminish you, but to mark you for something higher. Throughout Scripture, we see a consistent pattern. Before God uses someone greatly, He first sets them apart. This setting apart is not accidental, it is intentional, purposeful, and deeply spiritual. God does not separate everyone. He separates those He intends to use in a unique way. Separation is proof that heaven has noticed you. It is a signal that God sees something in you that requires protection, preparation, and refinement. When God separates you, He is declaring ownership over your life. In the same way a craftsman pulls aside a special piece of material for a specific design, God pulls certain people out of the crowd because they carry potential that cannot be wasted. Remaining in the crowd would expose you to influences, habits, and mindsets that would weaken your calling. So God, in His wisdom, creates distance, not to harm you, but to guard what He has placed inside you. This kind of separation often comes without explanation. God rarely tells us in advance why certain connections will end or why certain seasons must close. That is because separation demands trust. If God explained everything, faith would not be necessary. Instead, He asks you to walk forward even when your emotions protest and your understanding falls short. This is how spiritual maturity is formed. Separation also exposes the difference between human approval and divine approval. Many people stay in unhealthy places because they crave acceptance. But God knows that dependence on people can slowly replace dependence on Him. So He removes what you lean on too heavily, forcing you to discover that His presence alone is sufficient. In that discovery, identity is formed, not based on applause, but on purpose. Those who are separated by God often experience misunderstanding. Others may accuse you of changing, becoming distant, or thinking you are better than them. But spiritual separation is not pride, it is obedience. You are not elevating yourself, God is repositioning you. The discomfort you feel is not a sign that you are wrong. It is a sign that transformation is taking place. Separation also reveals your true value. When everyone is available to everyone, value is often ignored. But when God removes you from easy access, it increases spiritual worth. This is why anointing often increases in hidden seasons. Oil is produced under pressure, not in public display. God hides those He plans to reveal later. It is important to understand that divine separation does not mean isolation forever. It means isolation for preparation. God never separates without an assignment waiting on the other side. The time apart is used to sharpen discernment, deepen prayer, and strengthen faith. What looks like delay is actually divine timing working in your favor. If God has separated you, it means He trusts you with what is coming. He would not prepare you if there were no future purpose. He would not refine you if there were no calling. He would not guard you if there were nothing valuable to protect. Separation is heaven's way of saying, you matter too much to be shaped by just anyone. So instead of resisting separation, embrace it with gratitude. Instead of mourning what you lost, prepare for what you are becoming. You are not forgotten. You are not behind. You are not rejected. You are selected. And what God selects, he also sustains, strengthens, and eventually sends forth for his glory. When God begins to remove distractions from your life, it often feels confusing and even painful. Things that once filled your time, people who once occupied your attention, and activities that once felt important may suddenly lose their place. This is not coincidence. It is God's deliberate work. Distractions are not always sinful. Many times they are simply unnecessary for where God is taking you. And because God is intentional, he removes what competes with your focus. Distractions keep the soul noisy. When life is crowded with voices, opinions, expectations, and constant activity, it becomes difficult to recognize God's direction. That is why separation is so powerful. In quietness, clarity is born. When God separates you, he creates sacred space where your spirit can breathe and your heart can listen. The noise fades and the whisper of God becomes clearer than ever before. Many people confuse busyness with purpose. They fill their schedules but feel empty inside. God does not measure productivity the way humans do. He values alignment over activity. So when he separates you, he is not making your life smaller. He is making it more focused. He narrows your attention so your energy is no longer scattered. What once drained you emotionally and spiritually no longer has access to you. Distractions often hide in good things. Comfort, familiarity, and routine can quietly become barriers to growth. God knows that what once served you can later slow you down. So he lovingly disrupts your patterns. When certain doors close or certain invitations stop coming, it is not punishment, it is redirection. God is protecting your future by interrupting your present. In separation, God teaches you the discipline of listening. Without constant stimulation, you begin to notice what is happening inside your heart. You become aware of motives, fears, and desires that were previously buried under noise. This inner awareness is essential for spiritual growth. God cannot build greatness on a distracted foundation. He must first create stillness. When distractions are removed, prayer changes. It becomes deeper, more honest, and more consistent. You are no longer praying out of habit, but out of hunger. The absence of distractions makes room for intimacy with God, and intimacy produces confidence. When you hear God clearly, you move boldly. Doubt weakens when direction is certain. God also removes distractions to protect you from emotional exhaustion. Many people are tired not because they are doing too much, but because they are doing too much of what God never assigned them. Separation frees you from carrying unnecessary burdens. It teaches you to say no without guilt and yes without fear. In that freedom, strength is restored. This season may feel uncomfortable because distraction once provided comfort. Noise kept you from facing certain truths. But God is gentle. He does not expose to condemn, he reveals to heal. The quiet allows him to address wounds, renew vision, and restore hope. What you avoid in noise, God heals in stillness. It is also in separation that discernment sharpens. You begin to recognize what aligns with your calling and what does not. Decisions become easier because your priorities are clear. You are no longer pulled in many directions. Instead, you walk with intention. This clarity is a gift that only separation can provide. Do not rush to fill the silence God has created. Do not run back to distractions just because stillness feels unfamiliar. God is working in the quiet. He is preparing your mind, strengthening your spirit, and aligning your heart with his will. What feels empty now will soon be filled with purpose. When God removes distractions, he is not taking something away. He is giving something greater. He is giving you focus, peace, and direction. And with that focus comes the ability to step into the greatness he has prepared for you, with confidence that you heard him clearly and followed him faithfully. When God separates you, he is not only changing your surroundings, he is working deeply within you. Separation creates an environment where character is exposed and refined. In the presence of people, it is EAs. Why? To perform, to impress, and to hide weaknesses. But in separation, there is no audience. What remains is the true condition of the heart. And that is where God begins his most important work. Character cannot be built in comfort. It is shaped in pressure, tested in silence and proven in obedience. When God removes familiar support systems, you are forced to confront yourself. Your attitudes, reactions, and hidden motives rise to the surface. This is not to shame you, but to heal and strengthen you. God is more concerned with who you are becoming than with how quickly you succeed. In separation, humility is formed. When no one is watching, applauding, or affirming you, pride loses its power. You learn to serve without recognition and to remain faithful without reward. This humility is essential because greatness without humility leads to destruction. God refines your heart so that when honor comes, it will not corrupt you. Patience is also developed in these seasons. Waiting is uncomfortable, but it is necessary. Separation slows life down so that impulsive decisions are replaced with wisdom. You learn that God's timing is perfect, even when it feels delayed. This patience strengthens your faith, teaching you to trust God's process rather than rushing toward outcomes. Obedience becomes clearer in isolation. Without the influence of others' opinions, you begin to recognize God's instructions more distinctly. You are no longer following the crowd, you are following God. Obedience in separation is often quiet and unseen, but it carries great weight in the spiritual realm. God honors obedience that is rooted in love, not pressure. Separation also reveals your emotional maturity. When relationships change or opportunities disappear, how you respond matters. Do you grow bitter or do you grow wiser? God uses these moments to teach forgiveness, self-control, and resilience. Emotional strength is part of spiritual strength, and God ensures both are developed before promotion. Faith deepens when there is nothing visible to hold on to. In separation, you are stripped of external assurances and forced to rely solely on God. This kind of faith is powerful because it is not dependent on circumstances. It is rooted in trust. God refines your belief system so that when challenges arise later, your faith will not collapse. Integrity is strengthened in private seasons. When no one is watching, your choices define you. God watches closely during separation because private obedience leads to public authority. He builds integrity in you so that your future influence will be grounded in truth, not compromise. God also uses separation to align your desires with His will. Ambitions that once seemed important may fade, replaced by a deeper hunger for purpose. This alignment ensures that when success comes, it serves God's plan rather than your ego. Character keeps success from becoming destructive. Separation may feel slow, uncomfortable, and even lonely, but it is never wasted. Every moment is shaping you into someone capable of carrying responsibility, influence, and blessing. God is preparing you to stand strong when pressure increases and temptation intensifies. When God refines your character in separation, He is protecting your future. He knows that greatness will test you more than obscurity ever could. So He prepares you thoroughly. What He builds in secret will sustain you in public. And when the time comes for elevation, you will not only be gifted, you will be ready. When God separates you from certain people, places, or situations, it can feel painful and even confusing. Many times, we see separation as rejection or abandonment, but in reality, it is a strategic act of divine protection. Not everyone is meant to walk with you into the future God has planned. Some relationships, friendships, and associations may seem valuable in the present, but they can actually hinder your spiritual growth, purpose, or calling. God knows this, and that is why He sometimes removes people from your life. Separation is often a way for God to prevent interference with your destiny. People can unintentionally or intentionally influence your decisions, your mindset, and even your faith. Not everyone has the spiritual insight or the maturity to walk with you into God's plan. Some may offer comfort in the short term, but limit your long-term growth. God, in His wisdom, creates space around you, removing influences that could compromise the greatness He intends for you. Sometimes separation protects you from distractions, discouragement, and compromise. Those who are not aligned with your calling may not understand your vision and could pull you in directions that seem easier but are not part of God's plan. Remaining close to people who cannot embrace your purpose may lead to stagnation. God's act of separation is not punishment, it is preparation. By allowing distance, He ensures that you focus on what matters most, His plan for your life. Separation also teaches discernment. When God removes people from your environment, He gives you the opportunity to evaluate relationships more clearly. You begin to see who truly supports your spiritual journey and who merely occupies your space. This clarity is crucial because God's assignment often requires a circle that can encourage, pray, and act in alignment with His will. Not everyone can be a part of that circle, and separation reveals the right companions for your journey. It is important to understand that separation does not always mean the person is bad or wrong. Sometimes, God simply has a higher purpose for you and a different one for them. Just as Abraham had to leave his familiar surroundings to fulfill God's promise, you may need to move away from certain people or groups to step fully into your calling. Your path may be unique, and God's timing requires certain distances to prepare you properly. Separation also protects you from compromise. People who do not share your vision or your values can unintentionally influence you to conform or settle. God knows that your calling may demand sacrifices that not everyone can understand. By creating distance, He shields you from pressures that could compromise your faith, morals, or spiritual integrity. This protection is not always obvious at first, but with time you will recognize the wisdom behind it. Emotional resilience grows in these seasons. When people leave or doors close, the natural human response is often sadness or fear. However, God uses these moments to build independence and reliance on Him. When you learn to trust God rather than people for direction, affirmation, or security, your faith becomes unshakable. Separation strengthens your spiritual muscles so that you can handle the responsibilities God is preparing for you. Finally, separation ensures that when the right time comes, you are aligned with the right people and opportunities. Those who remain in your life will be there by God's design, not coincidence. By removing certain influences, God makes room for relationships, mentors, and partners who will support your destiny rather than distract from it. Your circle will be refined and your path will be clear, enabling you to walk boldly into the purpose He has planned. Though separation can feel lonely, confusing, and even painful, it is an act of divine love and strategy. God separates you not to harm you, but to protect your calling and prepare you for greatness. He removes what would slow you down so that you can move freely and focus on what truly matters. When you understand this truth, separation becomes not a source of sorrow, but a season of preparation, growth, and divine alignment. What feels like loss today is often the very thing that ensures your future success and fulfillment. When God separates you, one of the most important lessons He teaches is how to build unshakable faith and a clear spiritual vision. In the midst of separation, it is easy to feel uncertain, to question your path, or to doubt your purpose. But God's intention in these seasons is to strengthen your inner spiritual foundation so that your faith does not waver when challenges come. True greatness is never built on temporary comfort. It is built on steadfast belief in God's promises, even when circumstances seem impossible. Faith is cultivated in solitude because it forces reliance on God rather than on people or circumstances. When distractions are removed and familiar support systems are distant, you learn that your strength comes from Him alone. This is why periods of separation often feel difficult. They are designed to stretch your faith muscles. Each unanswered question, each closed door, and each moment of waiting is an opportunity to trust God more deeply. Over time, this trust becomes unshakable, grounded not in what you see, but in who God is. In these seasons, vision also becomes sharper. When surrounded by the noise of others' opinions, the pressures of social expectation, or the temptation to follow the crowd, it is easy to lose sight of God's unique plan for your life. Separation provides clarity. It allows you to see your life from a spiritual perspective rather than a worldly one. Your goals, your dreams, and your calling begin to align with God's divine purpose. You begin to understand that what once seemed like setbacks were actually redirections. designed to guide you toward the path God prepared specifically for you. Building unshakable faith during separation requires patience. Many people give up when results do not appear immediately, but God is teaching endurance through these periods of waiting. Faith is strengthened when it is tested, and the longer you trust God without visible proof, the more resilient your faith becomes. Each day you choose to rely on Him. Rather than leaning on human understanding, you are laying the foundation for future breakthroughs. These are the breakthroughs that will carry not just temporary success, but lasting impact. Separation also teaches discernment. When you are alone with God, you begin to hear His voice more clearly. You develop the ability to distinguish between your own desires and God's guidance. This spiritual discernment protects you from making choices based on fear, pride, or temporary satisfaction. It allows you to pursue the path that aligns with God's eternal plan, rather than chasing fleeting opportunities that seem attractive in the moment. Faith and vision grow hand in hand because the clearer your vision becomes, the more confidently you can step forward in faith. Another critical aspect of this season is the refinement of hope. Hope is not just wishful thinking, it is the confident expectation that God's promises will come to pass. In separation, hope is tested. The longer you wait, the stronger your hope must become. God allows challenges, delays, and uncertainties to prove that your hope is genuine, rooted in Him rather than in external circumstances. When hope and faith unite, they produce a spiritual resilience that can overcome any obstacle. It is important to understand that God does not separate you to isolate you indefinitely. He separates you to prepare you to operate in a level of spiritual authority and purpose that requires maturity, vision, and unwavering faith. The faith developed in these quiet seasons becomes the foundation for leadership, influence, and service. Without it, the pressures of future responsibilities could shake you. With it, you can face trials with confidence, knowing that God is guiding every step. In separation, prayer becomes a vital instrument for building unshakable faith. As distractions fade, your conversations with God become more personal, sincere, and urgent. You learn to rely on Him for direction, provision, and strength. This intimacy strengthens your spiritual eyesight, helping you see beyond current circumstances and recognize opportunities that others might overlook. Vision is born not just from ambition, but from sustained communion with God in moments of quiet and solitude. Ultimately, separation teaches the spiritual principle that faith and vision are inseparable. Faith without vision is passive. Vision without faith is fragile. When God separates you, He is simultaneously cultivating both. He is preparing you to see beyond limitations, trust beyond circumstances, and act boldly when the time for breakthrough arrives. By the end of your season of separation, you emerge not just stronger, but spiritually equipped. Your faith is unshakable because it has been tested, your vision is clear because it has been refined, and your hope is alive because it has been nurtured in intimacy with God. What others might perceive as delay or loneliness is actually divine preparation. God is shaping you to step into your destiny fully equipped, confident, and ready to accomplish the greatness He has planned for your life. When God separates you, it is never a random act. It is always intentional, always purposeful, and always preparatory. The principle is clear. Throughout Scripture, God separates before He elevates. Every season of isolation, every moment of waiting, every closed door is part of a divine process designed to prepare you for greatness. God's timing and methods are perfect, even when they seem mysterious to the human mind. What may feel like delay is actually God's strategic work to ensure that when promotion comes, it is sustainable and glorifying to Him. Elevation without preparation is dangerous. Many fall because they are promoted too early, given responsibility before they are ready, or placed in positions without the spiritual foundation to sustain them. That is why God separates. In these seasons, He develops your character, strengthens your faith, and sharpens your vision. He allows you to grow in areas that are unseen, yet vital. By the time for promotion arrives, you are ready, not just to receive blessing, but to steward it wisely. God's elevation is always tied to purpose. He does not lift people for recognition, applause, or personal gain. He lifts those who have been prepared to serve, to lead, and to fulfill His plans. Separation teaches humility, patience, obedience, and discernment. Qualities that are essential when you are placed in positions of influence. Without them, greatness can become destructive, leading to pride, misjudgment, and failure. Preparation ensures that elevation is aligned with God's will rather than human ambition. One of the most important lessons in separation is that timing matters. God's timing is not the same as ours. We may want doors to open immediately, relationships to be restored quickly, or blessings to arrive on our schedule. But God sees the bigger picture. He knows when circumstances are right, when people are ready, and when conditions will produce maximum impact. Elevation that comes too soon can collapse under pressure. But elevation hat comes after. Preparation carries power, authority, and endurance. Separation also protects your destiny. Not everyone can accompany you to the next level. Some relationships, environments, or situations would limit your growth, distract you, or even derail your calling. God separates you from those influences so that when He elevates you, nothing can compromise the path He has prepared. What looks like loneliness or rejection is actually a divine shield, guarding you until you are fully ready. In preparation for elevation, God cultivates spiritual authority in you. Leadership is not just about position, it is about character, vision, and influence. During separation, you learn to lead yourself before you can lead others. You learn to hear God's voice clearly before you speak on His behalf. You learn to rely on Him entirely before guiding anyone else. This internal training is far more valuable than public recognition because it equips you to handle responsibility with wisdom and integrity. God's elevation is often sudden, unexpected, and extraordinary. Many times those who have been in seasons of preparation are surprised by the speed and magnitude of their breakthroughs. That is because the preparation has made them ready to receive it fully, without being overwhelmed or misusing it. What seems like delay is actually incubation. What seems like waiting is actually divine timing, aligning every detail for maximum impact. Another essential aspect of preparation is testing. God often allows trials, challenges, and even opposition during periods of separation. These are not punishments, but refinements. They strengthen your faith, sharpen your discernment, and prove your readiness. Just as gold is refined by fire, greatness is tempered through trials. When you finally step into elevation, you do so with experience, wisdom, and resilience. Finally, elevation that comes after preparation glorifies God. When the world sees your success, they witness not just your talent, effort, or perseverance, but God's hand upon your life. Separation ensures that all promotion points back to Him, highlighting His faithfulness, power, and divine timing. The greater the preparation, the more profound the testimony, and the more lives are impacted through your example. So, if you are in a season of separation, take heart. God is not punishing you, He is preparing you. Every closed door, every period of waiting, and every lonely moment is shaping you for elevation. What is coming will be greater than you can imagine, because it is not based on human timing or human understanding. It is orchestrated by the Creator Himself. God separates before He elevates, and when the time comes, your greatness will not only be revealed, it will shine for His glory and accomplish the purpose He has designed for your life. In every season of separation, we must remember that God is at work, even when we cannot see it. What may feel like loneliness, delay, or closed doors is actually a divine process of preparation. He separates us to refine our character, strengthen our faith, sharpen our vision, and equip us for the greatness He has planned. Separation is not rejection, it is selection. It is not punishment, it is preparation. As you walk through these seasons, embrace them with trust and patience. Let God remove distractions, teach humility, and deepen your dependence on Him. Know that every trial, every moment of waiting, and every challenge is shaping you into a vessel capable of carrying His glory. And when the time comes, you will not only step into the blessings, responsibilities, and influence that God has prepared, you will do so with confidence, wisdom, and faith that cannot be shaken. Remember always, when God separates you, He is preparing you for greatness. Your season of preparation is temporary, but the greatness it produces is eternal. Stand firm, trust the process, and watch God bring forth the fulfillment of His promises in your life.